talk to you about stalking. All right, this has been in the news lately. We often hear stories about celebrity cases like Taylor Swift. I don't know, do you remember hearing this? Police say a man recently broke into her New York City townhouse waiting for her. And just a few months before that, that same guy was arrested for breaking down Swift's front door with a shovel. But it's not just celebrities. Just 2 weeks ago, 5 staffers at the Capital Gazette newspaper in Maryland lost their lives when a shooter opened fire. He was holding a grudge against the paper for covering a criminal case involving his stalking of a young woman. According to the Department of Justice, over 7 million Americans are stalked each year. And our first guest today, Kathleen Baty, is one of them. She survived an 8-year stalking ordeal that began when she was just a college student and culminated in a terrifying home invasion. Watch.
I started being stalked my junior year of college, and it was a guy that I'd gone to high school with. We were just on the track team, and I knew him no more than high in the hallway. I was home for Thanksgiving vacation, and I got a strange phone call. He showed up in my front yard that night, kind of didn't say anything, and then he jumped back in his truck and took off. We went into the house, and the phone rang, and my friend said, well, listen, Kathleen is going back down to UCLA tomorrow, leave us alone. And he said, oh yeah, well, we still have tonight, and she's not gonna make it back down there. So that's when we called the police. They pulled him over on the other side of town. He had 180 rounds of ammunition, a semi-automatic weapon, and bullets stuffed into cassette tapes under his seat. So they picked him up for a 72-hour psych hold. It was literally in one night from a phone call to that. 3 months later, he showed up at my door again, and my dad recognized him. And as he walked away, my dad saw a gun in his back. So he called the police, and the police did say to me, until he lays a hand on you, there's nothing we can do. So it just became this cat and mouse game of him showing up, me narrowly escaping, him showing up, me filing a police report. And that's how I lived. We were living back up in the Bay Area. I felt really good. Nothing was in my name. I felt safe. And we ordered a Domino's pizza. And I opened the door, and my stalker was the Domino's pizza delivery guy. The next week, the sightings started. And I remember coming home, it was about 4:30 in the afternoon, and I was listening to my answering machine, and I turned around, and he was standing behind me with a knife.
Oh my God, Kathleen Baty is here. Welcome to you.
Thanks.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
That is chilling. I mean, that is just chilling. But even in the moment, and I want the audience to know, the story is harrowing, but at every turn you were very collected. You handled it as well as any human being could. What did you say to him when you turned around and saw him?
Well, when I turned around, I said, sit down, I've been expecting you, we need to talk. Because remember, this had been going on for 8 years. I mean, it was like this cat and mouse game. And I had played it over and over in my head because I would just narrowly escape all these years, right? And he would, he would come to my door, and I would just barely get away, and then he'd be picked up by the police, and then he'd be put in jail for 60 days, and then he'd be out on probation. And so this became a routine. This was my life, right? So when I actually came in and was listening to my answering machine, and I turned around and I saw him, it was like, finally it's going to be over. One way or another, however it's going to end up, I just wanted it to be over.
Wow. Your mom called, and
yes.
he let you answer the phone.
Yes.
And you managed to signal to her that something was wrong. How?
She would ask me a question, and I would answer something completely different. I don't know about your mom, but my mom, she can just talk and not listen.
Oh, yes.
I'm like, oh, jeez.
Oh, yes.
So finally, after one question, I said, yeah, it is really hot. And then she kind of paused, and she said, is everything okay? And she sorted it out, because we all knew that he was missing. Mm-hmm. And he was supposed to be at a probation meeting with his probation officer, and he didn't show up. Mm-hmm. And so it was that phone call from his probation officer to me that notified me that he was out there. Because if that hadn't happened, I don't know.
You might not have been on your guard.
Exactly right.
So did 911 call you next?
Right. So once my mother knew that he was there, she called the Menlo Park police.
Yep.
And they were very well aware of what was going on in the whole thing. And so shortly thereafter, I got a call from police dispatch, a woman.
So he didn't know, the stalker who's got a knife on her did not know that this was 911 calling. And we have an excerpt of the 911 tape. And can you just listen to how cool Kathleen is. She's amazing. Listen to how this goes.
Is he in the house with you? Does he have any weapons?
Yes.
What does he have? Is it a gun? A knife?
Yeah.
Okay. Is he in the very same room with you?
Over here, trying to get up there.
Is it possible for you to pretend like I'm someone else and stay on the phone with me?
Yeah, okay.
Okay? So how are things going?
Oh, pretty good. I don't know. You know, this house that I was thinking of showing you tomorrow, I don't know if it's right.
You're incredible. You're incredible. How did you do that?
You know what? The one thing, you know, after working with so many crime victims over the years and me living it personally, what I have to impart to everybody that should be soothing is that we all have within us this fight. When we are in a life-threatening situation, it doesn't matter how strong you think you are or not. It just does. It happens. So for me, I don't know if you want to call it God or spirit or empowerment, but for me, that was a driving factor. When I hear that voice, it doesn't sound like my voice. I don't know why I said the things that I said, but, you know, it just all unfolded so incredibly, and I'm, you know, thank God I'm here.
That was so courageous because, of course, he could have grabbed the phone at any minute. He could have figured out. He could have suspected you if your voice had been, you know, identifiable to the outside world as nervous.
Right.
And so just to be able to handle that is incredible, but it gets even more dangerous. And Kathleen has gone on to become an advocate, not just for herself, but for other women, and has some very important tips for what you should do. God forbid you find yourself in this situation. We're going to pick it up after the break. We're back now with Kathleen Baty, who survived an 8-year stalking ordeal and now offers women advice about how to protect themselves with some help from her alter ego, the safety chick. Now, she's devoted her life to trying to do some good as a result of all this. But can we just finish it off? So the police came. He wound up tying your hands behind your back,
right,
pulling a gun on you, and things were going from bad to worse when thank God, he took you outside and the cops got you.
Exactly. The cops surrounded the house, and I noticed over in the corner a really tall cop waving his arms to run to him. So I had to turn my back to my stalker who had the gun. He had the gun pointed at his chest, so that's why the police didn't shoot him. So good. Lucky for me, I ran the 100 meters, and I ran the fastest 40 meters of my life with my hands tied, hurdled the picket fence, and got away safely.
Oh, my God. So he went to jail, but the truth is, especially back when this happened to you, stalking was not taken seriously virtually anywhere. And thanks to you, in large part thanks to you, it now is. So can you just explain how you got the laws changed, and really let's talk about what women should do.
Right. So at the time, there wasn't even the word stalking. I mean, there were no laws. It wasn't even a word.
1990.
So, so I was contacted because my story was in the paper by a state senator out of Orange County, California, by the name of Ed Royce. And at the time, he was trying to pass the state and the nation's first anti-stalking law, and he asked if I would go up and testify in front of the state Senate because all of the victims in his area that he knew of were dead. I was the only living stalking victim. And so I gladly did, you know, and honestly for me, and this is the other thing I want to impart to people is, you know, living like a victim, it's about perception. It's about getting your power back. And so I went up and testified, and when the law passed unanimously that day, it was like a huge weight was lifted off my shoulders. And for me, that was my mission. Like, I realized that day that was going to be my way of getting over things. But trauma happens all the time to people everywhere. And so you just have to, you know, find your happiness, find your peace. And really, it's all about mindset. Exactly right.
But is a security matter? Because stalking is a security matter, which is why it needs to be taken much more seriously. It's about layers between you and a potential offender.
So, unfortunately, with the laws, you know, there's always room for improvement on laws. But the biggest thing is you have to be, to prove a case of stalking, you have to prove a laundry list of behavior. So it's not just like one time, right? But the wonderful thing about it is when you are a stalking victim, as you well know, you live in fear, and it's debilitating and it's weak. But the thing is, much like you think of with bullies, okay, how this whole mindset is, the stalker is the coward. You are the powerful one. You've got to get your power back. And the way that you do that is you become your own case manager. You know, you save all the evidence. The moment, people always ask me, how do you know if you're being stalked? It's the moment that you feel in fear for your safety. period. And the first thing you must do is make it clear to that person that you want no further contact of any kind.
That's key.
That's
don't try to talk them out of it. Don't try to be nice.
And don't get into a conversation with them. That's not what I'm suggesting.
It's not a negotiation.
Safe way, even if it's in writing, in an email or whatever. But that is the starting point to proving a case of stalking. From there, document and save everything. And it's so much easier in this day and age with, technology and all of that. The knee-jerk reaction a lot of times is people just want to erase messages or whatever. No, save everything. And then once you really feel like this is a serious thing, get down to the police station. I work with victims all the time. I hold their hand. I help them manage their own stalking cases because, you don't know what to do. But get down to the police station and work with them. Be your own detective for several reasons. One, it helps the police be able to manage the case and hopefully get the restraining orders and get the guy put away sooner rather than later. But the other thing is it goes back to empowerment. It's a control thing. You feel the more you do for yourself, right, the more in control you feel and the more powerful you feel. And that fear goes away.
Well said.
Yeah.
You're a great example of that. And honestly, I thank you, because without you, when it happened to me, it may have been blown off as well. But thanks to women who came before me, finally I was able to get people to take it seriously. And the person who came after me went to jail for a long time and went to a mental institution after that. Listen, we're going to have more with Kathleen in a bit. I want to tell you, she's got a new show. It's called The Safety Chick Show, fighting crime one tip at a time. And it's going to come this August on online TV network CRTV. So check it out. We'll have much more after the break.
Hello, Today fans. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking that button down there and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives.